shit. How y'all doing? You doing all right? Yeah. Good to hear it, man. It's good to be home back here in Nashville. Yes, it's Zanies. I love it. I'm glad to be here. I spent the pandemic in Los Angeles. You know, I spent most of that time trying to convince myself maybe my accent plays better because we're in the middle of an apocalypse. You know, like maybe people hear me talk and they think, I bet he's got a lot of meat in cans. He seems like he'd bury a shed in the yard, you know? We should get to know that guy. Like, I put this trashy-ass above-ground pool in my backyard for my sons, and it was a big pain in the ass. I was out there cussing at it for days, and I feel like before all this, my neighbors would have seen me messing with that pool and been like, "What, is he trying to attract ducks to shoot? What's he doing?" Right? But with all this going on, they watch me messing with that pool, and they're like, "John, the hillbilly's putting in a reservoir. Should we have a reservoir?" Where do you get a reservoir? I think about my accent a lot out there because multiple studies have found that this is what most Americans consider to be both the dumbest and most racist sounding accent in the English language. So, yeehaw. That's fun. I don't think them studies were entirely necessary, by the way. I don't think you need a study to know that people think this accent sounds dumb. All you need to do is wait for anybody in this country to tell you a story about an idiot they met, and when they get to the part of the story where they quote that idiot, they will do so in this accent. No matter who they are or where the story takes place, you know? So I get in my head about it a lot living out there. I think everybody hears me talk, thinks I'm dumb, you know, so I'm like overcompensating for it a lot. Like I find myself like using big words totally superfluously, you know, like in ways that are neither germane nor apropos, you know, like just getting pretentious for no reason. I'll be in an Uber, the driver finds out I'm from Tennessee, says something totally innocuous, like, "Oh, Tennessee, you guys got all 4 seasons in Tennessee, huh?" And I'm just like, 4 seasons? Well, that depends. You talking about the weather or the seminal masterwork of Italian composer Antonio Vivaldi? Either way, the answer is yes. We do have that. He's just like, what the fuck? Nothing confuses people like a pretentious hillbilly, man. Now, I think I am in my own head about that, living out there, but I know for sure people in Southern California, they don't know shit about the rural South or people from there, you know? Like sometimes people find out I'm from the rural South and they talk to me like I'm a North Korean defector or something like that. Like, I've literally had people ask me totally sincerely, they're like, "You're from the rural South? How did you get out?" Well, first I had to bribe a riverboat captain. Have him secret me away up the mighty Mississippi. At which point I was able to barter for passage on one of those, what do you call them, sky trucks. They just don't know, man. Like, I can't prove this, but I bet you, though, in 1994, there were a fair number of people out there who genuinely did not realize Forrest Gump was mentally handicapped. You know, they had no idea. They were talking about it at work the next day, like, "Oh, it's this amazing film about a completely typical Alabama man." People don't understand what it's like to be from the South, you know? I have wondered if maybe the past few years in this country might help people from elsewhere to understand what it's like to be from the South, because now America is the South of the rest of the Western world, right? Like, I don't care if you're from Portland, Minneapolis, San Francisco. As far as France is concerned, you Mississippi now. Well, we're like... It's true. We all the same dumb in the eyes of the world. Some of them are aware of it. I've met some Californians concerned with our reputation abroad. They'll be like, "You know, I don't even want to travel lately, you know, because I know I'll go somewhere, they'll find out I'm an American, and who knows what they're going to think about me." And I'm just like, oh, yeah? Yeah. You worried that people from elsewhere might find out where you're from and make broad, sweeping assumptions about you? Yeah, that sounds terrible. I don't know what I would do in that scenario. No, it'd be even worse for me, man. I get over there, some Frenchman's like, oh, Americans, they are all ignorant baguettes, huh? And I'm just like, who you calling a baguette, motherfucker? Yeah, I know about your bread, Pierre. No, but all the stereotypes that, like, the rest of the country has for the South are the same stereotypes that Europe has for Americans in general. You know, like, oh, they're all loud, they're all dumb, they all love Jesus, they're all racist, they all got guns. And as a Southerner and as an American, I hear that shit, and I'm like, hey, yes. But also y'all too, you know. Everybody deals with that type of shit, man. Like, oh, Americans, they're all loud. Europeans can get loud. Tell an Italian you put pineapple on pizza, something like that. Their fucking hands get loud. Fette, fette, fette. I don't talk that spaghetti talk, but you know what I mean. Oh, Americans, they're all dumb. They got dumb people too. We just don't think about them. You know, like if I tell you to picture an Englishman, we all think of the same guy. Professor Oxford smoking a pipe, saying shit like indubitably, right? But you could just as easily picture the drunken hooligan shirtless after a soccer match shambling through the streets like, you fucking what, mate? Like Jesus Christ, did you escape from a pirate jail? Rock stupid, man. They got plenty of those guys, but they get away with it. I love England, but they get away with all kinds of shit. You realize their royals get away with shit that our rednecks get roasted for? It's true. They got messed up teeth. They're always fucking their cousins. You know, like, you can't never really tell what their job is exactly. Like, half of them's called Earl. It's bullshit. Like, oh, Americans, they're all crazy about Jesus. Well, we're not the ones with all them paintings of angels with their dicks out. They're the dick out angel painting capital of the world, man. Oh, America's so racist. I just think that's rich coming from the goddamn colonials, you know? They literally invented all of that. Like, all the worst parts of our history got started, and we wasn't even us yet. We was still them. They came over here, started all that, and now they talk about how fucked up America is, and it's like, well, we learned it from you, Dad. Like, all Americans all got guns. They'll shoot you. Yeah, you goddamn right. You don't stop talking that shit. Yeah, I don't have a witty retort for that one. Can't win them all, you know. But no, they do dumb shit too. I want to tell you about my favorite article I read in the pandemic. I was down an internet rabbit hole. Like, you know how that works. You pull your phone out to check your email or something, and next thing you know, you're like, I've been reading about the history of pickles for 45 minutes. I got shit to do today, right? Well, it's my personal favorite example of that. I found this article. Some of y'all gonna think I'm making this up. I'm not. This is 100% real. There's a hospital in France, and in this hospital, they have a hospice ward. So a lot of really old people without much time left, you know? And on this ward, they have an emotional support horse, right? If anybody in the back's like, did he say horse? No, not hookers with people skills. That's not what we're talking about, like clippity-cloppity horse, right? And the way it works is every day a handler brings this horse onto the ward. It chooses which patient to comfort that day. He does this by knocking on the door with his hoof. The handler opens the door, lets his horse in there, and it comforts this person on their deathbed. Okay, what kind of Patch Adams on acid fucking doctor came up with this living nightmare, man? Dude, I could be staying on a horse ranch, and if I woke up in the morning with Seabiscuit staring down at me, I would shit out my ears, dude. That ain't supposed to happen. Let alone in a hospital. Like, I wish I could have been there when this idea got pitched, you know? The guy's like, hey, you know how we have all these terminally ill people drifting in and out of lucidity in the twilight of their existence? Well, you know what would make them feel better, I bet? If they beheld a pale horse. Yeah. I think they'd be really into that. Like, imagine that happened to you. Imagine you're in this ward, you're having trouble separating dreams from reality. Like, one minute you're here, the next minute you're at a bistro with your beloved in 1963. Now you're back in the hospital. There's a knock at the door. Who could it be? Your long-estranged son come to visit at last. The door creaks open. You're straining your eyes to adjust to the light of the hallway. Leon, is that you? But it's not Leon. It's a fucking horse. Who would have a horse in a hospice ward? The specter of death, that's who. And it's so funny because if you read the article, you could tell they're really proud of this program, like they feel really good about it, you know? So I like to imagine they're always pitching little flourishes they could add to enhance the experience. They're like, hey, so we want the emphasis to be on the horse, right? And it's really dimly lit in the patient's rooms. So I was thinking, what if we have the handler just wear like a plain black cloak, you know, just a head-to-toe black cloak, just to draw the focus to the horse, you know? I think that'd be great. Oh, and we should have mood music, you know, something epic and operatic, suits the moment, like, Oh Fortuna, you guys know that song? You know, Oh Fortuna, they do so, they do so, they do so, it's perfect horse music, right? It's gonna be great. These poor old people are trying to warn the new patients on the ward. They're like, do not ask for whom the horse knocks. The horse, he knocks for you. They hear a redneck accent and they think you're resourceful. You know what I mean? Like people in LA, they hear me talking. They're like, oh yeah, zombies show up, Trae will figure out how to put a chainsaw on a school bus, you know, or whatever. Shit like that. But the truth is, I can't do none of that, man. Never have been able to. And it sucks, because that's the only upside of growing up poor white trash. You know what I mean? So it's like, what do I have left? You know, it's just like, yeah, I can't fix a carburetor for shit, but if you need to get your hands on a Kid Rock box set, let me make some calls. Starting with my mama. Just one call, really. And I can work that out for you. But yeah, I can't do none of that, and it sucks. Like, it sucks for my wife, you know, because she's like, hey, the refrigerator's making a funny sound, and I'm just like, well, better call the funny sound man. Because I didn't go to refrigerator college. I don't know what I'm supposed to do about that. Like, hey, there's a hornet's nest under the back porch. Well, pack your shit, guess we're moving. Because I ain't fucking with them. And it's hard for her because she also is from white trash redneck stock, so she knows how things are supposed to be, you know? Like her dad, my father-in-law, what he does for a living, dude. He's one of these, a man, you know? He's like an actual man. And it's tough for her because I'm not. And I make it worse because whenever we're around them, I try to fake it, and it never works, you know? Like the last time we visited them, he had bought this used drone for my sons to play with. So I was like, yeah, that's a good way to establish my manhood. You know, every redneck should be able to fly. Like I guess I've seen Randy Quaid in Independence Day too many times or something. I don't know why I thought that. But I pick it up, I push the power button, it immediately shoots off into the distance. Like it was like I had been holding it captive and opened the cage. Just gone. But it didn't get too far before it crashed into the very uppermost branches of this like 40-foot tall oak tree on the edge of their yard, you know? I just said it was an oak tree. I have no idea what kind of tree it was. I'm not a man. I don't know tree stuff. is a big-ass tree. And it crashed into the very top of it. So I sulk over to the base of the tree. I'm just standing there wishing a squirrel would put me out of my misery, you know. And I hear my father-in-law walk up behind me. So he's standing right here behind me. I can't look at him. I'm too emasculated. I'm too embarrassed. I don't know what to say. So finally I said, I swear to God, I said, what do you think? Maybe try to shoot it out? What? How? With what? Like, obviously, I'm not gonna shoot the drone. The implication is I'm gonna individually sever the branches with my dead-eye aim. That's my plan, apparently. Like, what would I have done if he had a gun? You know, we're just like, yeah, here you go, Trae. Shoot it out. Then what? Just popping off rounds into the clear blue sky like a Saudi prince at a wedding reception. Just like, ah! Yeah, I hope the people 9 miles that way ain't playing cornhole or nothing. Because I ain't hitting shit. And if you're wondering what he said, nothing. He said nothing at all. And you're like, yeah, I wouldn't dignify that with a response either. But that's not why he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything because he was already 20 feet up the goddamn tree. I swear to God. He is 65 years old. He just walked up, turned his cap around, put a knife in his teeth for some reason, and just took off. Calling me a pussy every other branch, man. Dude, if I'm lucky enough to live that long, I'll be 80 years old one day and wake up to pee at 3 a.m. and turn to head back to the bedroom and stop halfway down the hallway, just like, do you want to try and shoot it out? Like, that's one of those things that's never leaving me, you know? But my wife puts up with it for the most part. Our relationship held up pretty well in the pandemic. Every now and then she'll say some shit I'm not too sure about, you know, like she came home from running errands once at the height of the pandemic, so she's real stressed out. She's ranting about it. She's like, I just don't understand some people. You know, like, it's not that hard to stay 6 feet away from somebody you don't know. Like, what I do, I think, okay, Trae is 6 feet tall, so I picture you between me and the other person, and there you go. And at first I was like, yeah, okay. But then I thought about it, and it's kind of like what she's saying is, so what I like to do at multiple points throughout my day to make me feel better is I picture your lifeless body. Laid out, prone, at both my feet and the feet of my enemies. And that puts me at ease. And if you think that's an extreme interpretation of that, you don't have the full context with her, because the other thing that happened with her in the pandemic is she got really, really, really into true crime, the genre, you know? Yeah, dude, shit's like fantasy football for white women. I love it. I love it. Murder podcasts and murder documentaries and stuff. And it's like, and I can't, it makes me sad because it's fucking real shit that happened to real people. I'm used to false crime. I'm used to made up shit, you know? So she'll be telling me some true crime story she's into, and I'm used to false crime, so I'll be like, oh yeah? Then what happened? Did the killer corner the rookie detective in an abandoned house of mirrors? She's like, no, he stabbed an old lady and tortured her caretaker while she bled out. What the fuck? Ugh. You unwind to that? Why not Friends or something? She's a murder expert now. Like, we'll be watching one of my false crime stories. The characters are trying to get rid of a body, and she'll just be like, there's no way they're gonna be able to fit a corpse that size into that luggage. Not without a saw or at least snapping some of the bones. And I'm just like, oh yeah? You've thought about that, huh? You've worked out the logistics of how best to dispose of a looks to be roughly 6 foot, 190 pound male corpse. That's good to know. Now, I can't do the true crime thing, you know. To be honest with you, me and her don't have very many interests in common at all. Like, we don't really like very many of the same things at all, but it's okay because we hate all of the same things. And that's even better, I think. Like, all the books and songs and shit are written about shared love and shared appreciation for things, and that's great, but shared contempt is underrated, man. Dude, it's the best. And when I say we hate the same things, I mean stupid people and their bullshit, you know? Like you've seen these sites that collect social media posts from hardcore anti-mask and anti-vax people who later catch COVID themselves. You know, that shit's our Game of Thrones right now. Everybody, like, very invested in the storyline. Any of that shit that gets them all riled up can get us through a day, you know what I mean? Like, we're both having shitty days. She's mad because I forgot the milk or whatever. You know, we're just yelling, whatever. And then I just stop and take a breath, and I'm like, did you see where Hobby Lobby stopped selling Halloween stuff because they're a Christian company? Oh, my fucking God. Well, you know, it's like the Bible says, don't put a skeleton on your porch unless you want your daughter to be a whore. Oh, my God. Oh, my God, I love you so much right now. Before you know it, we're in the bedroom, things are heating up. I'm like, say it. Tim Tebow sucked in the NFL. Oh, it helps. The couple that hates together, mates forever. That's what I always say. No, but that's what we bonded over in the first place, realizing we felt the same way about all that shit, you know, because we met working at a bar together in Cookeville, Tennessee, just up the road here. Yeah, absolutely. Noted stronghold of enlightenment, Cookeville, Tennessee. And one day, early on, I overheard her talking to another server about that girl's roommate who wrecked her car. And the girl was totally fine, but it fucked her car up. She got a DUI, shitty situation. And the other server was saying, yeah, it's terrible, you know, and I'm gonna pray for her. And my future wife, without missing a beat, goes, that's crazy. I, too, am gonna do nothing at all to actually help. Oh, my God. Have my devil babies, you godless snowflake. Oh, my God. I'm about to give myself the vapors just thinking about it. Blew my mind, man. Because I grew up 40 miles north of there, further into the sticks. And as far as I knew, we didn't have girls like that in my hometown, you know. But to be fair, very long list of things we did not have in my hometown. You know, y'all know what I mean. Stuff like calculus, Muslims, hope for the future, that type of shit. We just didn't have none of that. Nutrition, just found out about that. That'd been good to have, I bet. We had food, it was just such cheap and wild shit, you know? Like, I was talking to this comedian friend of mine about this recently, and she grew up in central Washington State. And as soon as I brought it up, she was like, oh, I know. I think all the time about the garbage we ate when we were kids. We just didn't know any better. You know, stuff like Lunchables and Sunny D. I eat squirrels. Lunchables? Dude, Lunchables was uptown shit, man. You didn't bring Lunchables into my school cafeteria, you'd get your ass whipped for thinking you were better than everybody else. I'm like, oh, look at Cody over here with his Lunchables and his clothes that fit. And his married parents. Oh, what else do we not have in my hometown? We just got concussions like 3 years ago. So everybody's really excited about that. Explains a lot, you know. Before that, you just got your bell rung. That ain't a big deal. Everybody gets a bell rung. You be all right. Get back out there. It's a raging game. What else do we not have in my hometown? Old people who were wise. You know, like we had plenty of old people, but they weren't. Like, you hear all the time about the wisdom of the elderly, and I guess in a lot of places that's accurate, but in towns like mine, the old people are the most wrong about everything all the time. But they still tell you to listen to them when you're a kid. Like right now in my town, there's a single mom dropping her daughter off at Mama Ruthie's house. Like, honey, Mama Ruthie's lived a long life, a lot of wisdom to impart. You listen to her. Mama loves you. And then Mama closes the door and Mama Ruthie's just like, Kamala's the Antichrist and black people can't swim because they got an extra muscle in their legs. I'm 7. Shit messes you up, man. I think we can make a lot of progress in rural America with just one new rule. One very simple, self-explanatory new rule. Don't believe Mama or Papa. Like you can still love and appreciate them, but don't believe all that crazy shit they say is actually true, you know? Because it fucks you up. And I was the same way. I wasn't any different. Like, I got to college. I'd be in college sitting in somebody's apartment working on a group project and just say some shit like, hey, you know, if you feed that dog gunpowder, he'll guard the back door all night. What? Are you sure he won't just get cancer? I just think if we instituted that new rule, then maybe 15 years from now, teenage boys in my hometown might read some shit on the internet about how transgender people aren't fit to serve this country or whatever and say to themselves, I don't know, that sounds like some papaw shit to me, dude. It would help. Thank you. I think that'd be a valuable lesson for kids to learn, how to differentiate between clearly made up bullshit and actual reality, you know what I mean? Especially in the world we live in. Like, if we'd focused on that 40 or 50 years ago, then maybe January 6th wouldn't have happened, you know? Dude, oh my God. January 6th, a day so dumb, if somebody had explained it to you before it happened, you would have been like, stuff can't be that dumb. And then stuff was like, watch me, motherfucker. A man got trampled to death wearing a Don't Tread on Me shirt. Like, the unofficial face, the unofficial mascot of the whole thing was like if Vikings were useless, you know? The QAnon shaman. And then later, that guy's lawyer said about him in his official capacity as his lawyer that the QAnon shaman was, I quote, fucking retarded. What? Like, I didn't go to law school or nothing, but I don't think you're supposed to say that. What the fuck? Dude, you know the prosecution had to be pissed off. They're like, oh, that's what we were gonna say. God damn it. Now we gotta start all over. Now, I'm not defending the words that lawyer chose, but that's gotta be one of the shittiest, most stressful jobs in this country right now, I think. Being a defense attorney for one of those people. You ever thought about how frustrating that would be? You're in court just like, Your Honor, how can it be proven that this image of a rioter holding a baton in the Senate chamber is in fact a picture of my client and not merely someone who resembles them? Well, this picture was posted to your client's Facebook page along with the caption, this is a picture of me, Chad Green, holding a baton in the Senate chamber, hashtag stop the steal. I was like, for fuck's sake. Like, what do you do with that? It's gotta drive you crazy. You know, so crazy you'll say some shit like that lawyer said. And again, I'm not defending the words he chose, but the context of what he was trying to say was basically like, look, this guy ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. He's been exposed to intense propaganda for years. And this is what happens. And I think the guy was actually trying to make a pretty good point, really, about the danger of disinformation, you know? Because basically this lawyer's standing in the court of public opinion at his wit's end, pulling his hair out, just like, look at this motherfucker! You see how dumb he is? Now look at the shit he's been reading. You see how crazy it is? Well, you can't show a motherfucker that dumb some shit that crazy and expect everything to just be okay. Fuck. And he's right, man. Disinformation is completely out of control. It's so out of control now you got half the country refusing to listen to doctors in the middle of a plague. Like, that's a bold choice. And it really sucks because our plague doctors have their shit together. You know what I mean? Like in the Black Plague, their doctors were lunatics in nightmare bird masks. Doctors back then walk in looking like an extra from a Slipknot video. Just saying wild shit. Like, oh, you got the plague? Just pluck that chicken, strap it to your wounds. I'll be back in the morning. And don't forget to drink your mercury. One of the most common treatments back then was bloodletting, which if you don't know, that's where they cut the body open and let blood fall out of it for a while, a technique you may recognize from its other work as murder. That's just murder. So doctors back then were prescribing poison chicken murder. And everybody was just like, whatever you say, Dr. Terror Bird. And now today it's flipped on its head completely. It's the complete exact opposite. Today our doctors have mountains of data and science and evidence backing up what they say, but still half the country's just like, fuck you, horse pills. You know? And I don't know what you're supposed to do with that. I don't know what you're supposed to say to these people, you know, because they've all done their research. Like, it's hard. It's hard because they love doing research, you know? Looking at Facebook with your mouth open ain't research. It's not how research works. It is so wild to me that such a percentage of this country can see a meme posted by their buddy at the job site and think to themselves, this is what every learned person of science has missed about this whole thing. Hey, baby, get here and look at this. Rebar Randy solved the pandemic. How about that? Yeah, well, think about it. How many horses you ever seen got COVID? Hardly not none. Good on you, Randy. It's just so wild because the stakes are so high, they're literally life and death. Like, I feel like they wouldn't do that in a similar scenario. Like, if you took this guy and put him in a plane that was going down, filled with all his elderly family members, and you said, you got to land this plane, but it's okay because we're going to patch you into somebody that's going to work you through the whole process. So you can either talk to our nation's most decorated Air Force captain who's in a room of expert aviators fully at your disposal, or we can holler at Randy, see what he thinks. Feel like most people would go with the pilots, you know? But I don't know, I'm starting to wonder. I'm starting to think if that guy found out the pilot in question was a transgender vegan, he'd roll the dice on Randy. Yeah. Well, I mean, Randy's seen Top Gun like a shitload of times, so I feel pretty good about it. It's fucking insane. Everything is so insane, and it really sucks because we're living in the future, you know? Like, this is the future, man. I used to daydream all the time when I was a kid about what the future might be like. That's what you do when your mama's on pills. And I gotta tell you, all this shit never came up. Like, I don't know what all this is, but this ain't it, the future. Like, imagine going back in time and explaining the future to your 12-year-old self, you know? Like, for me, I go back to my mom's single-wide trailer, 1998. That big time portal opens up. I step through. It is I, you, from the future. You know, I don't know why I'm talking like a wizard. Like, I would have the same voice. You know, I talk about people judging my accent, but even me, in my head, thinking about that, I was like, well, you can't have a time traveler talking like a cartoon possum. That would be stupid. So you do the wizard voice. I come to you from the 2020s. Holy shit, that is the future. Tell me all about the future. Is it insane? So insane. But probably not in the way you... I bet it is, right? Like, humanity's all advanced, the technology's crazy. It's like, listen, it's a fucking nightmare, okay? Yes, everything's different. Yes, everything's crazy, but it's all bad. How can the future be bad? You're supposed to have everything in the future. Like, do you not have flying cars? No. Robot butlers? Spaceships? Barely. And like, you gotta invent computer Walmart to have one. So, pretty much no. Well, obviously you have time travel. What? No, this ain't real. This is just for a bit I'm doing. That's another thing. You end up as a comedian mostly on the computer, so the hits just keep on coming, am I right, buddy? But no, time travel ain't real. Well, what about aliens? Well, it's funny you asked that one, actually. So in the middle of everything, the U.S. government did come out and say that it might be aliens, but everything was so fucked up, nobody really gave a shit. What? Yeah, that's crazy, right? Side note, that is so fucking crazy that happened. That's how terrible everything was. Then in the middle of it, 60 Minutes put out a report where they're like, hey, the U.S. government says it might be aliens. And we were just like, well, tell the aliens we'll call them back. God damn. Can't they tell we got some shit going on right now? Are the aliens gonna pay my bills? And fuck them. That's how half of us were. I think the other half heard it might be an alien apocalypse and we're just like, yeah, why wouldn't that happen? But imagine that from the aliens' perspective. Like, you've been doing recon on humanity for generations and you finally part the clouds and show up, but it's in the middle of all this shit. So humanity just walks out there and grabs that big death ray space laser and puts it to our forehead like, do it! Do it, you fucking cowards! I'm like, holy shit. You guys got some stuff. We're just gonna circle the Milky Way. Good luck with that. What the fuck? Even the alien conspiracy theory people didn't care. Like, they spent decades being like, the government's lying to us. It might be aliens. And the government was like, we've been lying to y'all. It might be aliens. And they were just like, well, now I don't want to. Feels dumb now. But anyway, I'm talking to my 12-year-old self. Future sucks. Is there anything good you can tell me about the future? They make tacos out of Doritos and you can look at titties on your phone. Take me with you. All right, thank you guys very much. We appreciate it. At Nashville, we love y'all very much.
And the bathroom stall. Red-headed women and alcohol. Said ain't so, said ain't last call. A whiskey on the rocks and Adderall. A whiskey on the rocks and Adderall. We're no different than neon lights. We turn us on, we stay up all night. We do what we can, we put up a fight. We burn too long, we flicker and die. It's nights like these that the drugs don't work. It's getting away instead of picking me up. I wish my addictions didn't mean so much, but we all can be born